Hello and welcome to an episode of Historically Marked. I am Jason, and I am just outside the Visitor Center area in Arrow Rock, Missouri. And it's a very historic town. It is in fact one of the oldest preserved towns here in the Midwest, probably in the United States. About 100 years ago, the state of Missouri actually purchased this town because they wanted to preserve the historicness of it. I mean, there's lots of history I can go into. There's a lot of old historic buildings. It even houses one of the oldest continuously operated restaurants. However, come to find out that the restaurant is not operating at the moment, but I'll explain more about that. There's plenty of historic buildings, lots of markers, and I'll try to get to as many as I can and to keep this video as interesting as it already is. So I'll go ahead and start the tour. All right, so the best place to start would be south of town, and this is considered the Arrow Rock State Historic Site. And by the way, this is the state of Missouri's first state park. Well, there's actually a state park just south of town as well, where people can camp out in their RVs and all that other stuff, but there is a visitor center just past that trail, and there's a museum inside there. Plus you can get a passport stamp and buy some souvenirs. But then I'm going to go ahead and go north into town on Main Street. Follow me. All right, so here is the Main Street junction with Missouri Route 41, and this is the starting point. And right here is the Santa Fe Trail marker. This is one of the places where the Santa Fe Trail began. Now, a man by the name of William Becknell, he envisioned a route because he wanted to go to Santa Fe after he heard that it had been independent from Spain, and because Americans were barred from going into Mexico under Spanish rule. But he wanted to go there, and from 1822 to 1872, this was placed here by the Daughters of American Revolution. And it says Arrow Rock at the bottom. But like most roads, it was outdone by technology because railroads took over after the Civil War. So, but of course, across the river, Missouri River up ahead, that was where the Boone's Lake Trail ended, and so as a result, it was kind of somewhat a continuation of it. But yes, the Santa Fe Trail took you into Kansas City, Kansas, present-day Colorado, and then of course parts of Oklahoma and New Mexico. All right, we're going to start down there. All right, so here I am just a little farther down Main Street. I'll tell you some of the buildings up that way, but I'm going to show you this part first, which looks to be the commerce part of it. Obviously, these are a lot of old shops, like an old trading post and antiques. There's even a museum shop. That is also a visitor center too. And oh, look, a dog. Looks like a sheepdog, but I know it's not. That's not what it is. Now here's a marker right here. You've seen this. You've probably seen this in a lot of my videos if you've been following the channel. But the town of Arrow Rock as a whole was designated a National Historic Landmark in 1963. There is another historic national landmark up ahead I'll show you. But I'm going to show you the J. Huston Tavern. Alright, so up until earlier this year, this was in operation for a long time. In fact, it was in, I think it was People magazine, this was the oldest operating restaurant in the state of Missouri. But this federal style architecture of the tavern, which was the cornerstone of Arrow Rock's historic renewal, this kind of shows the southern heritage of the early settlers. And unfortunately, I will not be able to go in. Yeah, there's a closed sign on there. But as recent as last year in 2023, they were serving country style meals. They were known for their chicken and dumplings and fried chicken. So yeah, I'm a little bummed that I won't be able to taste it. I mean, it wasn't really high on my bucket list, but who knows, maybe in the future. But like I said, this was advertised as the oldest continuously operating restaurant west of the Mississippi River. But there is a little bit of complicated history. The state did own the restaurant, but by 2019, the Friends of Arrow Rock organization took over the place. But this year, the group decided not to run the place for various reasons. I heard it was a change in concessions, but they are, however, hoping someone or some group may decide to take over the tavern. So, as of May of 2024, as I'm doing this video, we'll have to find out, but here's to hoping. But if you want to know some information about Joseph Huston of Virginia, settled in the area of 1819 and was one of the town commissioners. He purchased this in November of 1833, and this was one place that probably housed weary travelers passing by on the Missouri River and on the Santa Fe Trail. And so and even back then, taverns were not just a drinking establishment as they are today. It was also a hotel and a restaurant. And it was not luxurious. But in 1912, the National Old Trail Society furnished the museum room in the building. And then the Daughters of American Revolution and the Missouri legislature also had a hand in helping to restore this. Now, next to the tavern in that white building over there is the Academy boarding house. Public education did not exist until after the Civil War. The Arrow Rock Academy, which doesn't exist no more, it was a private school incorporated in 1843. And students boarded at this log house for $2.50 a week. And that building has been there since 1829, according to that sign. And another thing mentioning, I really don't want to say worth mentioning, is, but yes, this town was very prosperous before the Civil War, and a lot of these buildings were built by slave labor, including these ditches. Yeah, I know it's really hard to believe, but yes, I mean, everything has been preserved as it was 175 years ago. But I'm going to go ahead and show you this marker that's right over here. Yes, this is one of those State Historical Society of Missouri markers. This was put up in 1953. I'm not going to read the back because it mostly just talks about the attractions, but this ancient site was noted by explorers and travelers. The Frenchman in Danville marked Pierre of Fleche, and translates to French for Arrow Rock, on his map of the Missouri River in 1755. The Lewis and Clark expedition noted the site in 1804. S.H. Long of the Yellowstone expedition in 1819 said that it got its name from the Indians using the outcropping flint to point their arrows. And then a blockhouse, which also served as an Indian trading post, was built and operated here from 1813 to 1814 by George C. Sibley, a trading agent from Fort Osage, the Missouri. Also in that area were Cox's Fort, McMahon's Fort, and across the river, Cooper's Fort, family defenses in the War of 1812. In 1821, William Becknell crossed the river here at what became Santa Fe Crossing on the first successful trading expedition to Santa Fe. And then this was also originally known as Philadelphia, like Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Laid out as New Philadelphia in 1829. And I read from the Visitor Center that the Missouri legislature decided to rename the town Arrow Rock. And the town did serve as the seat of Saline County for 1 year in 1839. But that distinction later went to Marshall, which is about, I want to say, 15 miles west of here. During the Civil War, a part of the town was burned. I'm going to go ahead and take you a little bit farther that way. So like I said, I'm not gonna, for time constraints in this video, I'm not going to show you all the historical sites, but they are all numbered. And this here, of course, is number 1, Shelby Log Cabin, and it's open, so I can go in. Yay! This was originally located southwest of Arrow Rock, and it was moved to this location to save it from destruction. All right. That's a big rug. Really cool. Here's a little skeletal part of the cabin, but it says on the wall it was part of a larger log cabin home which originally stood in what was known as the Shelby neighborhood just southwest of here. But the building was taken down log by log in 1972 and moved here. Wow. So the reason it is named the Shelby Cabin was Saline County pioneers Richard Shelby and his wife Rebecca. They lived here in 1835 when they came to this settlement, but Shelby was actually the grandson of General Isaac Shelby, the first governor of the state of Kentucky. And I believe he is the namesake of Shelby County, Missouri. And this was a painting done by George Caleb Bingham. We will be visiting his house, not the inside, but I'll show you his house later on this tour. And then you can sign in. All right, so this next interesting building is the IOOF, or the Oddfellows Lodge Hall. It is also a print shop museum. This was once the home of the Saline County Herald. And I read somewhere where it was the first newspaper published west of the Mississippi, outside St. Louis, but I don't know how true that is. And, but the lodge, this place did provide a lot of social interaction and a safety net to pay for members' burials and support for their widows and orphans. And of course, this was also a newspaper office, and today houses the collections of the Missouri Press Association. And apparently I can go in. Wow, look at this. Old printing presses. A linotype machine. Good Lord, wow, look at this. And there are kids that are on a field trip here, so that's why you hear some kids, but they're probably downstairs. And then across from that is the Masonic Lodge Hall and the craft shop. Looks like there's a marker on there, but doesn't really say very much. But yeah, the Masonic organization is one of the oldest fraternal organizations in the world. This was the Arrow Rock Masonic Lodge number 55, and it was established in 1842. This was erected in 1868. And the upper story was reserved as a meeting space for the Masons, and the ground floor was made available for rental to generate income for the local Masonic chapter. And then September 22nd, 2007, the Friends of Arrow Rock purchased this old hall, and the still active Arrow Rock Masonic Lodge, yep, still active, you heard me right, it moved to the building that once housed the Zion Evangelical and Reformed Church, which is not too far from here. And it talks about a gentleman named Anthony Sullivan. And this here is the John P. Seitz home and gun shop. Johnny and Nanny Seitz purchased this home in 1866. In 1875, they raised the roof and added 2 bedrooms to make it look Victorian style. And then this was also a site where he learned to build guns. So that's where the gun shop part comes in. And then right there is the Miller-Bradford House. A gentleman named Sam B. Miller built a house in the 1830s, then sold it to Dr. Charles Bradford, the grandson-in-law of Dr. Sappington, you know, the guy who, you know, cured or treated malaria. This was restored in 1959 by Bill and Coralie Miller. It was the first private restoration in the village. And today it's closed, but that's okay. Stop number 4 on here. And this is not part of the tour because this is a private residence, but they put a marker here. The Dr. William Price House, he lived from 1812 to 1865. He began his practice here in 1835 and built this 2-story federal-style house about that time. Slave quarters and stables once stood to the rear. Price married one of Dr. John Sappington's daughters, Sappington of quinine fame, and became a partner in the family's anti-fever pill business. Price was secretary of the first town board elected in 1840, a founding member of the Masonic Lodge, and a trustee of the Arrow Rock Academy. He and his wife are buried at the Sappington Cemetery State Historic Site, which I do in another video, but unfortunately I didn't visit his grave. But here is his house, And then next door is the old Christian church. Johnny and Nanny Seitz, whose house I just showed you, they are credited with donating the land on which this church was built, and that was back in 1872. Here's just a close-up of it. There's a Daughters of American Revolution plaque next to the doors, which are locked. But again, that's okay. Would have been cool to check out the interior though. And then across the street is, it's not a historic building, but Arrow Rock does have some residents here, about 100, or they say 60, but actually I see public school on there, okay, above the doorway, but this is now the village hall. So yeah, any matters with the town, it gets settled here. And going into the influence of African Americans in this community, especially after the Civil War, when emancipation came, this is Brown's Chapel Free Will Baptist Church, built in 1869. African American residents built this church, which served as the first African American school, and the 1870 census lists 66 students, both children and adults. Zach Bush used a team of mules to move the church to its present location in 1881. So I'm not really quite sure where it originally was, but if you go into my other video about the Sappington cemeteries, you'll learn about the guy who helped start this church. We are now on High Street, and this is looking west. And so Sappington Memorial Building, which is known as the newer Dr. John Sappington Museum, there's a historical marker. It says here, this is site number 9 by the way, Sappington 1776 to 1856, he brought quinine to this malarious community and to the travelers of the Santa Fe Trail. He wrote the first medical book west of the Mississippi and established the Sappington School Fund, which has aided over 13,000 young people. You'll also learn more about John Sappington as I go to his cemeteries, which is going to be in another episode. But here is his building. Now, a little bit more about Sappington. I mean, yeah, he is known for developing and mass marketing the quinine pills, but he was also a political force in antebellum Missouri, and he brought about a Missouri political dynasty, which I'll again talk about in another video. This is what brings people to town for entertainment purposes. This is the Lyceum Theater, and they do hold concerts, shows, and many other events. This was established in 1961, and let me see what it says on this bulletin board here. Yeah, they got some productions here like Escape to Margaritaville. Hopefully that'll be a good tribute to Mr. Buffett. Noise is Off, the $1 Million Quartet. Oh yeah, Elvis. So yeah, you can definitely be entertained here. So yeah, really nice building. And one thing worth noting about the Lyceum Theater is this was at one time a Baptist church. So yeah, very nice. They got a really nice outdoor area. I imagine that's where concessions are, or I don't know. Not quite sure, but either way, it looks really great. And this here is the George Caleb Bingham House. And I'll show you this plaque right here. Like the town of Arrow Rock, this has also been designated as a National Historical Landmark. But 3 years afterwards, in 1966, stop number 10 on the tour. So who was George Caleb Bingham? Well, he was an accomplished painter, and he did paint a lot of, he was mostly known for his portraits of Missouri life. And I mean, he was pretty much, I mean, not just in Missouri, but like, he was one of America's greatest 19th century artists. But he was, again, he was famous for his portraits and scenes of politics, river life, among many other things. And he lived here intermittently during the 1940s. Now, I don't know if I can go in. I mean, like I said earlier in the video, there are kids having field trips here, and I saw them go in the building, but I don't want to be that guy, that creeper that follows right behind him, if you know what I mean. I'll show you the back. And here's the side of it. Looks like it's got a really nice covered porch. So yeah, I mean, like if it rained, I mean, you wouldn't have to worry. You'd be like just chilling outside. But yeah, very nice either way. So one of the last things I'm going to show you is just south part of town, and this is on Spring Street. This is at the corner of 3rd and Spring Street, as a matter of fact. But this is the Big Spring. Tradition states that early Santa Fe caravans watered their stock here before heading west. And it was a notable townsman named Burton Lawless, whose house is not too far outside of town. He gave permission, or he granted free use of using the spring to the town in 1829. There's a marker that tells about it. Early Santa Fe trading expeditions used this watering stop after leaving Franklin and crossing the Missouri River. Burton Lawless donated to the town in 1829. The Works Progress Administration started improvements in 1934. We're just going to go over the bridge a little bit. And of course there's a shelter. But yeah, it looks really like a really nice nature area. And I suppose this goes right to the Missouri River, but I could be wrong. And now the last place I'm going to take you in Arrow Rock is the Calaboose, or the Stone Jail. The historical text is on the sign. The stone jail replaced an earlier one made of logs. Only one prisoner was ever jailed here, and when his hollering kept the neighbors awake, he was released. Okay. I don't know what that person did, but we're going to take a look at the jail. All right, I'm going to take a little peek inside here. All right, up these steps we go. Hey, you can't go in. It's locked. Oh, never mind. I guess I can go in. Wow, look at this. Very nice. Well, not really, but very retro. Glad there's not much litter in here, but hey. Hey guys, I'm in jail. All right, here we go. Well, I hope I gave you guys a reason to come all the way to Arrow Rock, Missouri. There's a lot of history. They're very proud of it. Again, there's so much to see. I mean, in addition to what I've shown you, but it's one of those where you can spend either a whole day or maybe an afternoon, and hopefully by the time you get here, the Huston Tavern will be open to eat and browse around inside, so we shall see about that once again. But I am Jason in Arrow Rock, Missouri, sign off.